Today, we're diving into a scenario from our source material that is just, well, it's a wild ride. It's about a hypothetical conflict that spiraled into a complete disaster for a global superpower. And really, it's a story of how overconfidence can backfire in the most spectacular way possible.
So, let's get right into it. The situation our source lays out is this incredible reversal of roles. You've got the United States, a global superpower, practically begging for a ceasefire. And on the other side, Iran. And they're the ones setting the terms. So how on earth did we get here? To figure that out, we have to look at how this whole thing started. To understand how everything went off the rails, you first got to look at the initial plan drawn up by the US and Israel. It was called Operation Epic Fury. And honestly, on paper, it looked almost too easy. A clean, three-step strategy for a fast win.
The whole idea was pretty straightforward. The thinking was, you launch a lightning-fast strike to take out Iran's top leaders. They figured that alone would make the government crumble. Then, you could install a friendly regime and, of course, get control of all that oil. Simple, right?
The entire plan was built on this one massive assumption, that Iran was just a house of cards, ready to topple. It was this huge political gamble, fueled by a serious case of overconfidence. And as we're about to see, it was a disastrous miscalculation.
Right, so here's the fatal flaw. This quote-unquote perfect plan had a blind spot you could drive a supertanker through. The planners were so focused on their own military might, they completely, and I mean completely, overlooked Iran's most powerful weapon.
And this just lays it out perfectly. The source claims that the US planned for a quick military fight, but what they didn't bank on was the Iranian people's will to resist. And most importantly, they just didn't seem to take seriously the idea that Iran could, and would, shut down the world economy by blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so the Strait of Hormuz, it's everything. It is this tiny, narrow strip of water, but it's basically the jugular vein of the global oil supply. A huge chunk of the world's oil flows through it every single day. If you control the strait, you essentially have a chokehold on the entire global economy. Now get this. This quote, reportedly from White House leaks, just shows the level of arrogance we're talking about. The Pentagon apparently treated a full-blown blockade of the most critical oil choke point on the planet as a, quote, secondary consideration, an afterthought. It's just unbelievable.
So what happened next? Well, the consequences were immediate and catastrophic. The moment Iran blockaded the strait, oil prices didn't just rise, they doubled. They shot past $150 a barrel, sparking panic and sending a massive wave of inflation across the globe.
And then there was the human cost, which started climbing at an alarming rate. Iran launched counterattacks on US bases all over the region. And soon, reports started leaking out. Over 170 American soldiers injured, many of them badly, being secretly flown to a hospital in Germany.
And the money? Oh, the money was just hemorrhaging. We're talking an estimated $20 billion spent in just the first 2 weeks. And that doesn't even count the billions of dollars worth of sophisticated military gear that was lost in the attacks.
And then, this. A truly stunning admission. The U.S. Navy, the most powerful navy in the world, had to come out and say it couldn't protect oil tankers passing through the strait. In that single moment, it felt like the U.S. had effectively handed the keys to the global economy over to Iran.
So, with the U.S. suddenly on the defensive, Iran seized the opportunity. It went from a position of perceived weakness to one of incredible strength, and it started laying down some very, very tough conditions for peace.
The new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the leader killed in that initial U.S. strike, he came out swinging. His message was crystal clear. This wasn't about politics anymore. For him, it was personal. It was about revenge.
And look at these demands. Iran isn't just asking for a timeout. They want their nuclear program officially recognized. They want the United States to pay for all the damages. And they want a written, ironclad guarantee that this will never, ever happen again. These aren't ceasefire terms. They're the terms of a victor. So here's the bottom line. Iran believes it's holding all the cards. I mean, think about it from their perspective. They've lived under crippling economic sanctions for decades. They're tough, they're resilient, and they're betting that the rest of the world, and especially the U.S. administration, can't handle the economic pain of this blockade for very long. They're willing to wait this out. And this new reality, according to our source, has backed the U.S. completely into a corner. And a superpower that feels cornered and humiliated, well, that can lead to some truly desperate and dangerous decisions.
You can see the ripple effects everywhere.
Old alliances are shattering. The Gulf nations, who for decades have relied on the U.S. for security, are absolutely furious that they weren't protected and are reportedly thinking about pulling their massive investments out of the U.S. economy. And meanwhile, Russia? They're laughing all the way to the bank, selling their oil at insane prices.
Now, this is where the source goes into some really dark speculative territory. It raises the possibility of a false flag attack. That's when a government secretly attacks itself and blames an enemy. The theory goes, as the president's approval ratings collapse because of sky-high gas prices, maybe the administration gets desperate enough to stage a 9/11-type event to rally the country for a full-scale invasion.
And that really gets to the terrifying endpoint here. According to the source, the plans for a ground invasion are ready to go. The troops are in position. All they need is a trigger, a justification, whether it's real or completely manufactured, to turn this epic blunder into a massive, bloody ground war.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows just how fast this all fell apart. We went from this feeling of supreme confidence and a quick win to a desperate scramble for an exit, all in the span of a few weeks. It's a textbook case of strategic collapse.
And if there's one lesson to take away from this whole hypothetical mess our source describes, it's this. It's a warning that's as old as time. Never, ever underestimate your opponent. Hubris is a killer.
Which really just leaves us with this one final, chilling question. It's always so easy to start a war, isn't it? But once it's begun, it takes on a life of its own. And getting it to end is a whole different story. Thanks for watching.